this is what they come for. A view unchanged for millennia. A quiet majesty that draws millions to the coast of Norway. But to get this view, you have to bring this with you. A floating city that brings an economy, a crowd, and a growing conflict that is dividing cities all across Europe. The argument for the cruise tourism has always started with money. Across Europe, it's an industry contributing over 25 billion euros to the continent's GDP. For Stavanger region, it represents an annual turnover of around 340 million kroner. But the question is, how much of that money actually reaches the ground? In Trondheim, the average cruise passenger spends about 600 Norwegian kroner. In Kristiansand, it's 760 kroner. But a landmark study from the University of Bergen found that the average spend can be as low as 300 kroner, about 27 euros. A more significant number is the direct fee the ship pays to the port. For a single day stop, this can be around 200,000 kroner, around 18,000 euros, depending on the ship's size and passenger count. The fee is even high on Sundays, a gentle nudge to give the locals their weekend back. But that money doesn't go to the people most affected. It goes to the Port Authority, co-owned by multiple municipalities, to improve harbour facilities, and to the state in the form of tax. For the residents whose view is blocked, there is no direct compensation. When you see the crowds, the first thought is over-tourism, but a detailed analysis commissioned by the city found that its infrastructure handles the number of visitors without major queues or chaos. The problem for many residents, especially here in the historic Gamle Stavanger district, isn't the people, it's the visual pollution. And then there's what you can't see. A report from Transport and Environment shows that in 2022, cruise ships sailing in Norwegian waters emitted more toxic nitrogen oxides than all of Norway's 2.9 million cars combined. Across Europe, the fleet released more sulfur oxides than 1 billion cars. Here in Stavanger, the problem is compounded by a lack of shore power. To keep the lights on, the casinos running and the pools heated, ships have to run their diesel auxiliary engines for the entire stay, an average of 9 hours, right here in the harbour. But on the ground the story is complicated. As one local environmental health advisor stated, emissions from cruise ship occur high up and are diluted. Well, that means less direct impact on the street level air quality, it doesn't disappear. It becomes part of a much bigger problem, the global climate crisis. The cruise industry says it's cleaning up its act, investing billions in new ships and aiming for net zero emissions by 2050. And while Norwegian law dictates a duty to receive, meaning ports can't simply deny a vessel a spot, they can use financial pressure. More polluting vessels pay a higher docking fee, an incentive to send cleaner ships. But it leaves cities in a bind, legally obligated to accept the ships, economically reliant on their income, but socially and environmentally paying a price. The floating cities promise to connect us, to show us the world, but as they get bigger and more numerous, they leave a complicated wake. And for the communities left behind, watching the ships disappear over the horizon, it all boils down to one fundamental question: at what cost?